Hi everybody, my name is Virginie Nicolas. I'm working in ConceptO in Paris, and I want to share with you today some ideas about some experiments about the new challenge we face, the question of protecting darkness when doing exterior lighting. So where should light end and where can darkness begin? So ConceptO has studied since 30 years, more than 150 lighting master plans all over France and Europe and a bit abroad. In answer to the climate urgency, cities need to cut now their energy consumption. So 10 years ago, we initiated our first dark infrastructure study. Since then, the notion of nighttime landscape, ecology of light, black infrastructure, and high environmental quality lighting have been tested in a real context in our recent studies and lighting projects. So we are becoming now shadow designer. So the question is how to protect biodiversity with current lighting standards when increasing number of people ask for more light and more new playful time at night. During the previous session, I've told you and explained a little about the tools we use, so I will be quick on this subject. So first is chronotopia. Chronos means the time and topia, the place. So the question is to know exactly what is needed in terms of amount of light and quality of light for the users, at what time and when. So that's first analysis take a long time because it's a question of sociology to understand really deeply the needs and the future of users using and uses and to understand what can be switched off during night or dimmed. The second point, I will be quick on that too, it's to analyze biodiversity impact reports, means a lot of documents, big that big, to understand which kind of animals you will meet at night in this area and where, at the same time, and at which season they will be there and what they need in terms of obscurity, mostly. The third tool is spectrum analysis. This is a short grid showing the new researches we have and you can use to select the best spectrum for our lighting. Here you can see really quickly that there's no good light for every species. So unfortunately, it's impossible to preserve all species as the photosensibility is different from one animal to the other. So actually, it's more the question of analyze which species is more needs priority protection, because you can't do a perfect project. Perfect project is pitch black, so it's not comfortable for humans. So the thing is just to find the best in between solution. Spectrum analysis means that now you know and you understand what is the photosensibility of the animal in the area. You have to select the best spectrum emission lighting of your LEDs. Of course, the color is one way, but in terms of white LEDs, we have full spectrum, narrow spectrum, and this is super important to understand that the widest the spectrum is, the more light disturbance and pollution you will create for animals. So actually, more CRE is not the best every time. And the last tool is to understand the flicker impact of dimming LEDs, because as you know, for dimming LEDs, we just cut. And we have this 24 picture per second sensibility, human eyes, but all the animals are different. And actually, the faster ones, for bugs and insects, they don't have the same frequency. So actually, when you're dimming LEDs to make less pollution or to minimize consumption, you will create a stroboscopic effect, and actually that is terrible for the nervous system and obviously for the behaviors of all those little animals. So this is to be understood and to take in account when you're doing your lighting master plan. So I want today to focus more precisely on 3 projects. The first one is Massif Palaiseau. We had this we were mission to do a light for an industrial transportation site, but it was placed in an ecological corridor. As you can see, it's just surrounded by forest. They didn't have any choices for the location, actually, because it's a question of public transportation. It's a train public transportation system. So it's to avoid more cars, but in a way, when you have to put your industrial site just in the middle of the forest, that's terrible for ecological context. So how to deal with that? How to do the less the lower impact possible. So first, we propose to reduce light pollution toward the green areas around. Means first is just to suggest to put some black asphalt maximum on the floor, then direct all lighting fixture towards the center of the site and not outside. And there was a question too about the light escaping from the building itself. Means that this transportation maintenance site is used at night mostly, and in the building, the light levels, the levels of illuminance are super high. It's a very bright light going outside by the windows, because actually they have daylight during days, which is good, but means that they have very big windows facing north. So in the north situation, you have a lot of light escaping at night from the building. So we suggested several times to put windows on windows some metallic reflective film inner, in order that the inner light will be reflected inside and not going outside. But actually, interesting thing is, as we were mission only to study the exterior lighting master plan, we didn't have a lot of possibility to defend this idea, and actually it was a bit expensive. So this proposal disappeared, unfortunately. Alors, the first step is to analyze the spectrum. So what we did, it's a color map of spectrum. As in France, since 1 year, it's forbidden to put colder white than 3000. We had 3 color, 3207. 2700 and amber light. We put amber light basically in the maximum areas, so when possible. So here, the amber, it's a in-between solution for most animals, means a mammifer, squirrels, and so in this area in particular, it's interesting to see that when we explained to the client that amber light was better for biodiversity, he just offered to make the main entrance in amber, explaining that actually it's a main entrance, but we don't need to see that much the color. He had completely get the point about poor spectrum lighting. So here it's a minimum white areas that we made acceptable, because actually we have to analyze the need of human workers to ensure that the light will provide a good enough color rendering. In this context, it's to recognize the security color, means red and green and blue, for workers just to understand what not to do and what to do. So we had a color rendering minimum of 30 CRA. So the amber, poor amber, simple amber was not enough, but PC amber, which has a widest spectrum, was okay with 41. What about the illuminance levels? We analyzed precisely the standards in every places to know the requirements, the precise requirements for working tasks outside. They were a bit really high, but we had to reach them, of course, but we wanted to minimize the quantity of lighting, being very precise on the location where we will put lights. Because in this kind of context, often people just put lights outside everywhere and very high level. Just to reach a minimum, they put the average level everywhere. So here we were more precise about it. Means that we have a lot of different fixture and different optic and different high of the poles. But we obtain, when we analyze this program, we obtain to keep in darkness the south east area. You can see the illuminance calculation here. So the part in the east, in the east, it's a very low level, it's 5 lux is average. And what about now the control system? This is a map showing the complexity of control system. Of course, when you want to minimize quantity of light, you have to dim, you have to switch off, means that your system has to be a bit clever, but not too much in order that it will work during years. So here we make in pale blue. So was it's the area where it was not possible to switch off during night, unfortunately, but it's 5 lux average, so okay. In purple area, the level depends on the activity, and on this area, we decided to push some buttons for worker when they go outside to do the task, just to switch on and have a 100 luxes level, and when they are not here, it's a 20 lux level average. And in peak area, we had some occupancy sensor, and you see on the east part, it's a security pass just for guardians to be safe and to make a round trip. And so it will be activated only when people will be there. And if I go back here, you'll see that it's completely amber. So actually it's amber, very low level, and it's switched off when there's no one. So it was a good solution, I think. And the entrance is the same. There's not a lot of people going in and out during night. And one interesting place is here. We had this little story with the hedgehog. We suggested to the ecological expert that maybe it could be great just to switch off the light in the main entrances for trucks when there's no one, no trucks detected. But actually, when discussing, we discovered that it was worse to switch off completely the light, because he said that the hedgehog can enter in the area, and then when a truck will arrive, it would be smashed and squeezed, which is super sad. So actually, we decided to have this idea of having a light belt around the site to provide animals to come in and be switched and or damaged. So they will go around it, around the site, and not crossing the site. Second project, alors, I check our, okay, it's not working. So Vernier-Etang, that's residential site, and the point here is very dense with a lot of people, because it's just so close to the airport of Geneva, and it's surrounded by 2 islands of darkness, and we wanted them to stay dark. So this is a dark master plan, as we said, means that we have 2 areas. One is 1 pond, that's a pond with frogs and all that kind of little animals. And the other one is a forest. And this is forest we saw in the impact, ecological impact notice, that we have some protected snake there. So it was a question, to be short, of green lighting at night and not other color, because they never see the green light. It's a lower impact on them. So what we do, because there's a lot of people living there, it's just to imagine how to find a pacific coexistence between animals and humans, and imagining the future pathway, and conceive some transitional zone to tame the darkness with natural patterns. So this is the idea. So mainly we just make a transitional zone between light and darkness with patterns of forest natural shadows, for people just feeling comfortable gradually from light and this pond surrounding with very low level lights. We suggested at the beginning of the project to make some occupancy sensor on the southwest part, just near the forest, with bichromic system. Bichromics means that you have 2 LEDs in your projector, and you switch on amber. In this context, it was green, but green or white light depends if there's some people detected around. But actually, we realized when doing the project that it was as good just to switch off the light where no one will be there, and switch on where there's someone. And this was possible because the municipality was ecologist and considered that bicycle going there around the forest will have their own lights. So they were agreed just to keep a pathway with no light at all to preserve this forest. The last project was made in Alula. we made a big competition, international one, with landscape architects, and the site is huge, as you can see. It's a valley surrounded by hills and in a desert area. And a very big light show were expected to create this is a question of developing tourism in this area. So it's just, they want people to go there to see the archaeological site. This is a lighting master plan showing the island of darkness and the places with light, because there's a city in the valley and we have archaeological site, you can see 4 of them. So the point was just to imagine how to deal with tourism and darkness. We made a survey, an analysis of the level of illuminance and the darkness of the sky. For that, we use very simple sky quality meters. You can see there was more sophisticated one, but you can find it. It's for astronomic fans. So these measurements can be seen as a program just to improve the light pollution, because actually it's pitch black around, but in the city itself, lighting system pollute a lot. There's a lot of light escaping from the site. So actually, the quality of the sky, it was surprising to see that the quality of the sky was not that good and not good enough to reach the requirement to obtain a dark sky reserve labeling, which our clients want it, because we want this competition explaining that we will do some dark tourism and not light show tourism. And I'm going to explain that more. So first, it's just create this darkness, and it's a lot to do, improving the existing lighting and make the best quality possible for the future lighting of new areas. So first step, preserving darkness. For that, we made some analysis, making a delimitation of 3 zones: pitch black zone with no light at all, in transitional zones, and zone with activity, with public lighting. We asked no permanent lighting outside urban area, which was huge, because the point was to make some new places to make the public come in these places. So no public lighting at all was a big proposal, a big strategy. That was accepted, and we will see if we going to achieve that. And the general rules, quite obvious. It's just light source, never directed towards the sky, to put some warm lights at the beginning of the night, and if possible, dim amber light in the middle of the night, for the same reason I explained in the previous project. And of course, every office, shop, windows and sign has to be switched off 1 hour after the closing hours. And sensitive light, what is sensitive light? It's a full spectrum and very rich spectrum light, means colored lighting and moving lighting and like publicity screens have to be switched off during the course of the night to preserve this darkness and to make the sky visible. Second step is developing now astro plus lighting tourism experience. So our first proposal was to organize night walks with hanging lamps. So there's no light apart from the lamps the people will bring. And this is completely magic and ancestral experience to discover the Alp Valley, such an ephemeral way, and to provide from the sky. The second point was to create the possibility of an intimate discovery of the old engraving, because this site, why is it's archaeological and so famous? Because actually there's some engraving really old. It's kind of big history, a big book of all the printing evolution in this area. Its name is the Garden of Civilization. So each visitor will have a very specific and unique experience, because he will discover and will discover it himself the engraving on the rocks. And interestingly enough, we realized that it's not at all selfie friendly, because it's so dark. So the visitor will have to keep on their own brain all the memories, wonderful memories of this discovery. Third step was to create immersive and collective light experience. So the visitor, the group of visitor will bring some lamps and create an event. Means that the guide has to know not only about historical points on the site and archaeological culture, but about lighting design too, to help the group to create their own light show, ephemeral light show. And for the wow effect, because the wow effect was expected, of course, we imagine that the video system can be bring by buses and be installed in a very precise point and just make the projection just a magical moment. The very bus is used to put the people here and there and just to make the big travel. So no electricity, no equipment inside with no wire, and it's pure creativity as you can just create more videos. And most of the budget is for the creation and not for the picture. And you preserve completely the site. And the last one, I think the more magical, it's just to offer a pure darkness experience with no lighting feature at all. When people get used to the darkness, you can bring them to make this pathway to observe sky. In the very deep core of the area where the night is the more dark. And we imagine to put some phosphorescent stone on the floor in large scale, because we have saved a lot of budget now, and to create this completely poetic landscape, night landscape. So that was for the 3 projects I wanted to told you about. So you saw that the point was just preserving the environment, and the poetry of light too. Thank you. That was Virginie Nicolas from ConceptO.
Okay, we're going to go live now to Paris to talk to Virginie about her presentation. Virginie, thank you very much for that. There's a lot of interest and a lot of appreciation of what you've been saying on the chat alongside your presentation. One of the first questions I'm going to ask you is to come up from Anna Tura, and she's said that she's curious about the French guidance you mentioned. Is it forbidden to use higher than 3000 Kelvin around the whole country or only in Paris? And is it only in external sources or is it other sources too?
Is it forbidden since a year in the whole country outside and public and private? Just completely forbidden to use a colder white. So it changed a lot the situation for us because we have to change a lot of fixture, and the manufacturer has a lot to do to adapt.
Absolutely. And is that for new fittings? It's not a retrospective thing. People don't have to take down what's there.
We were supposed to. We are not allowed to put new fixture colder than 3000 Kelvin since the 1st of January of 2020.
2020.
So it's not about is it an old or new one. It's just if you're going to put it after the 1st of January, it's forbidden.
Yeah. Okay, that's very forward thinking and really good way of regulating. I like it. It's good. In the lockdown, we've seen in the UK, people have sort of gained a new appreciation of darkness because the pollution's gone down. People have been able to see the starry skies again for a while. Has that happened in Paris? Has it made your sort of discussions about darkness any better?
Yeah, we had a lot of discussion about it because we were actually able to see more stars. It was very impressive in the first weeks. And so we had a lot of discussion along the country about the fact that when the lockdown is on, maybe there's no cars, so you could switch off every public lighting. So we have a debate, a lot of debate on television and so on. And so it helped a lot to little cities just to accept to switch off more, because we have the west part of the country is very used to switch completely off the light during the night, and the east part is less used to that. So we are a bit divided about this question. People think that it's necessary to make dimmable light and no switch off, and most people say, oh no, switching off is okay. So we have a lot of conflict about it.
But it's progress, I suppose. At least you're talking about it, which is more than a lot of places. Is there a dream place in the world that you would like to sort of implement a darkness strategy on?
Oh, so much. In Vietnam, I would like, because we started a lot of projects there, and for the moment we are asking to make people more
sensible to darkness and beautiful skies, but for the moment they just want to put, the client with whom we're working, we just want just a show. So I think there's something interesting there, because they're moving so fast, but for the moment it's just like they don't care. I have a friend working there, and they just ask her to remove all the protection of darkness part of the studies.
Wow.
Because it's not, why I don't know, but they just remove it. We don't care.
One sort of last question, I guess. You've titled your presentation "A French Touch: Darkness in Urban Lighting, a French Touch." Do you think that it could be adopted in other places?
I'm sure that there's another places, in particular in the North Country, where they have this kind of similar things. But as I've never saw any presentation explaining this kind of strategy, so I had this idea of say, okay, it's a French touch for the moment, because for now in PLDC I didn't see other country or other lighting designer studios having this wide approach. So, but yeah, I think that it will develop a lot, because in Switzerland, in Morocco, we are already working on that.
Excellent. Okay, I think that wraps it up for this session. Thank you very much, Virginie, for joining us. I really appreciate you being here for the questions. Great presentation. There's lots of good feedback on the chat about it, and it has become, darkness is definitely becoming a subject that people are really open to talking about. So thank you for bringing it to our attention.